This is the lecture on overview of basic terms and concepts in special education. My name is Dr. George Giuliani from Hofstra University, and this lecture today will address the basic concepts of special education, a real understanding of an overview of the terms that you need to know to move forward in the course. And we'll start by going with special education. And if we're going to be spending weeks upon weeks discussing special education, you really have to have an awareness of what special education is. So when we look at special education, we have a definition, and that definition is defined under this term known as IDEIA, also called IDEA, and I'll get to that in a moment. But IDEA 2004 defines special education. And the definition is as follows. It's specially designed instruction at no cost to parents to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability. Now, let's first look at IDEA. IDEA is an abbreviation, and it's the abbreviation for the Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act, and it was enacted in 2004. So people will call it IDEA of 2004, but most people will call it IDEA. But IDEA is our nation's federal special education law. This is the law that governs how states in the United States have to provide special education to children with disabilities. And we'll be talking throughout the course about what IDEA requires of parents, of students, of school districts, most importantly. And so what we'll look at is IDEA 2004 talking about the federal law, and again the federal law being special education. That's the key here. It's a special education law. So everything that happens in the United States based on special education is going to be surrounded by, in some way, shape, or form, IDEA. Now, IDEA has many purposes. However, the two main purposes of IDEA are as follows. First, it ensures that all students with disabilities are afforded to them what we're going to call a FAPE, a free, appropriate public education. And second, what IDEA does, it ensures that the rights of students with disabilities and their parents or guardians are protected. So there are really two major purposes to IDEA. First, to afford all children of FAPE, which we'll talk about later, a free, appropriate public education. And second, it ensures that the rights of students with disabilities and their parents or guardians are protected. Now, let's break down that definition of special education. Again, when you look at the definition of special education, it says it's specially designed instruction at no cost to parents to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability. So let's break down each one of these phrases. First, specially designed instruction. Okay. When we talk about something that is specially designed, what we're talking about here is that it's customized, all right? A specially designed anything is a customized thing. So in special education, we're talking about a customized instructional program. It means that we're going to adapt the content, we're going to adapt the methodology, and adapt the delivery of instruction. So we're going to adapt what we teach children in special education. We're going to adapt how we teach these children, and we're even going to potentially adapt where we teach these children. But it's a customized program. It's specially designed for the child. Now, the second part of the definition is, it says we're specially designed instruction at no cost to parents. At no cost to parents means it's free. And regardless of the disability, regardless of the severity of the disability, it is free. So when a child receives special education and related services, it will be at no cost to parents. Now, the third part of the definition says to meet the unique needs of a child. Again, specially designed instruction at no cost to parents to meet the unique needs of a child. And what you have to remember here is that every child receiving special education and related services is considered to be unique. We don't just lump all children together. We don't just say, oh, because this child has a learning disability, this child will get whatever. Or this child has autism, this child will get whatever. We don't do it that way. We don't base the needs strictly on the classification of the child. We look at every child as a unique individual. And that is why every child in special education receiving special education services has what is called an IEP, which we will get to later. And an IEP is an individualized education program. And we'll get into that later, but the IEP meets the uniqueness of the child. Finally, the fourth part of the definition says we're specially designed instruction at no cost to parents to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability. Now, this is important because all children in special education have to have disabilities. You can't receive special education if you don't have a disability. Now, what is a disability? A disability is an inability or a reduced capacity to perform as other children do because of some impairment in sensory, physical, cognitive, or other areas of functioning. Now, let me explain that. An inability to perform is a child, for example, who cannot walk. A child who cannot walk, a child who is paralyzed from the waist down, has an inability to walk as other children do. If a child is blind, the child has an inability to see as other children do. Now, that's different than a reduced capacity to perform. A reduced capacity to perform is a child who might be able to walk but needs a walker to walk, all right? Or a child who uses a cane to walk. That child can walk, but the child has a reduced capacity to walk as other children do. Children with poor vision have a reduced capacity to see as other children do. So they're not blind, they don't have an inability to see, but they have a reduced capacity to see. So all children receiving special education services have to have a disability. And again, the disability is an inability or reduced capacity to perform as other children do because of some impairment in the various areas of functioning that I mentioned. And in special education, a student with a disability is a student who has one or more of the 13 different disabling conditions or classifications under the federal law. Later in this lecture, we'll talk about those particular classifications, but there are 13 different classifications. So remember, all children receiving special education have disabilities, but also make note, not all children with disabilities need special education. There are plenty of children who have disabilities but don't meet the eligibility criteria for special education, and we'll talk about that later in the lecture. So again, just to reiterate, the definition of special education: specially designed instruction at no cost to parents to meet the unique needs of a child with a disability. That ends part 1 of this lecture. We'll now go to part 2.